Hey, this is Skippen, and today's illustration breakdown is everybody's favorite hero. Like many people, I also love My Hero Academia, and Midoriya is one of my favorite characters. I don't often draw male characters, but it's something that I've been trying to do more often, and I've been trying to do different things with my style, trying to find exactly what works for me, what's going to be the most efficient, and what's going to let me really express myself or let me draw the characters that I love in the shortest amount of time with the best results. So let me break this down for you. This time I was going for more of a sketchy look. I wanted my line art to be more like shonen manga, just like the source material. I didn't want it to be the clean line art that I always try to strive for. And I also wanted to do something more dynamic than I usually do. I think I've been trying to draw too many portraits where I'm really trying to stick as close to the photo as possible to draw a friend of mine or someone that I like. But for this one I wanted to do full body, dynamic pose, get out of my comfort zone and draw something that I thought was going to be cool and fun. And it was a lot of fun. Another goal for this piece was to try to be faster, so I did decide to color before I finished my line art, just to get a base down. I knew that I didn't want to do all segmented layers for this one. I wanted to try to just not deal with all these layers to see if I could speed up my coloring process. And really something that I haven't tried before was this unique lighting, this backlit explosion in the background. Like I said, I wanted to make it more dynamic, but on top of that, I did want to experiment with different lighting. I find that a lot of artists that are starting out don't really consider lighting. Maybe they just have a style that they really like, and they'll go off of that. But if you really take the time to think about where the light is coming from, and how it's going to cast the shadow, how the highlights are going to look, you're going to have something that looks more realistic. And I find that even if you have good line art, even if you have good anatomy, if you have something in your drawing that is just off, the human eye is going to pick up on that. Whereas if you have something where the anatomy is good, the coloring is good, the lighting is good, everything's good, it's going to look really pleasing to the eye, even if it's more of a basic illustration. So just like anything else, fundamentals are one of the most important things, and you really should focus on that. Trust me, I love to color, that's why I'm doing the coloring here before I actually finish the line art, but if you really stick to the fundamentals, get a good base down, it's going to help you out so much. I drew for so long just wanting to get to the coloring as soon as possible, so a lot of my line art and my anatomy suffered for that for many years, and now I'm trying to correct these bad habits. And no matter what part of the drawing that you're having issues with, that you're struggling with, if you just set your mind to it and spend a few minutes each day practicing that one specific thing, you're going to get so much better in just even 2 weeks. You're going to see huge improvements. And if you take something like this where I said, all right, I'm just going to try something new, experiment, set a reasonable time limit, and just see what happens, the expectations aren't going to be as high. You're going to leave a little bit of room for yourself to improve and say, you know what, I'm going to learn from this and the next one's going to be better. And when the stakes are a little bit lower like that, you can have a lot of fun drawing and learn a lot in the process. And then here I was having a little bit of trouble with the eyes. I couldn't really decide on the eyes and the eyebrows. It's really something that I haven't drawn too much. A character like Midoriya that has a little bit more of that wide eye, less detail in the eyes, and a younger look. So I think I changed it several times throughout this illustration, but the more rough line work allows me to go back and really fix it. So it was a nice change of pace to not have to focus so much on the eyes. I think the eyes are an important part of the piece, especially when you're doing a more detailed female character. People tend to look at the hair and the eyes, but if you're drawing a more shonen manga younger character, you see even in the comics or in an anime, they don't have that much detail in the eyes. It's not the focus, and it was really interesting to do that for the first time in a long time. And so here I started to make base layers so I could clip my rough color to it and really start to add details, but not having the issue of the jumpsuit bleeding into the belt and all that. I did this all on my desktop with a Wacom Cintiq 13 HD, but if you're drawing on something like an iPad, this is a really easy way to get past not using a keyboard. And even on a desktop, if you just want to be faster, taking that rough color layer and just separating it out into sections to really add in those fine details. And this kind of let me strike a balance between the two styles that I like, that are a soft anime look as well as a semi-realistic. I think when I'm doing an anime piece, I tend to stick to a more established way of drawing. Line art at the very top, underneath that a base layer, and then you're clipping layers on top of that, drawing within the lines, etc. I think oftentimes those established ways of drawing help me create something I do like visually, but when trying to do a practice drawing, something more natural like this really is more beneficial. You're focusing more on a specific technique or what you want to learn rather than a rule set. As you can see here, I'm really trying to flesh out the background. That explosion wasn't something that I planned when I started this, so I think if I had to redo this, if I had to really pick something to improve on, it would be to spend a little bit more time planning before I do the coloring. It was great that I wanted to try different lighting, but I could have maybe gotten a better result if I had planned that from the beginning. One thing I did like about this more simplified coloring process was, specifically with the hair, I was able to use the fingertip tool to smudge and mold things to the way that I wanted them to look like. Even when I'm using more standard techniques, towards the end of the coloring process, I like to merge all those color layers, make a duplicate of it so that if I mess up I can always go back, and then run a fingertip tool kind of between the highlights and the shadows to give it a softer look where the hair strands would be. And you can even do it in the clothes or something if you want folds in the clothes to not have such a sharp look. You want them to seamlessly blend in from highlight to mid-tone to shadows. Using some of those fingertip tools or the blur tool is a really good solution for that. Things are really starting to take form now. I'm putting finishing touches on it. As you can see, I'm coloring on top of the line art already, and sometimes that's just a time-saving solution for a piece like this that is really intended for practice. You shouldn't stress all these little details, just draw on top of the line art, it'll be fine. That about wraps it up for this one. There were a few areas where I did make mistakes or forget to color, but as often is the case, done is better than perfect. It's best if you just move on and try to catch those in the next piece. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to answer it as best as possible. Also, this will be the last video for a little while. I'm not going to have the time in the summer to put out a video as frequently as I have been. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can find me on Instagram at Tsukepen, Tsukepen, same as here. Thank you so much for watching.